And this is the Sourceseeker Hour, online, our new format and new way of presenting to the world here on the Sourceseeker Hour. We're gonna have a great show today. We were originally supposed to have the show Money, Sex, and Power Secrets in the Church with Bishop George, but Bishop George had an emergency. And I, the Sourceseeker, agreed to come in, and we're going to talk about a very, very important subject. There are protests going on in Minnesota. Some people call it a riot. I say it's a protest. It is a way of trying to express a frustration, a way of trying to express something ain't right, a way of trying to tell people, hey, you got to pay attention. This can't go on anymore. And looking at it, in my opinion, what's happening is the least amount that they should hope that happens, because that is very serious what happened. For those that do not know, George Floyd, who was from Third Ward, CUNY Homes, here in Houston, Texas, he was down there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he was arrested for forgery. The video shows a police officer with a knee on the neck. There are a few discrepancies, not too many, as to what happened, but something got to give. Somebody got to come up with a good rationale or a good consequence. And something got to give on this particular situation, because this cannot stand. Black people are not going to just put up with this and just be sitting ducks and sitting targets. Vion, tell me something about what is the state of going on?
Well, you know, people are really tired of seeing Black people being abused in many different ways. Particularly, we see us being abused in COVID, and now we get almost every other day. We saw the Central Park thing where the lady, well, you know, refused, or when the lady wanted to call the police on the guy for asking her to put the dog on a leash. So we see all these things that are directed toward dehumanizing Black folks. If you look at the video, it was very inhumane the way the officer put his knee on the man's neck for absolutely nothing to supposedly subdue him, and he was already in handcuffs. So people are tired of seeing this sort of stuff occur on a regular basis all across the country, and if we really look, it's occurring all across the world on Black folks, people of dark skin.
Yes, Brother Times, you got something to share on that?
Absolutely. You see a lot of times, and not just in recent culture. I remember when I was a kid being accosted by law enforcement for no apparent reason, being frisked without just because Black walking through a mall, being surveilled by security for no absolute reason, and had money, had no ill intent, but yet profiled anyway. You know, so we've been suspects of law enforcement for who knows how long, and we're seeing the fruits of it. Thank God we had a video of this actually happening to George Floyd, because if we didn't have the video, if somebody wasn't there producing that video, we wouldn't know the truth, because the police report that they typed up was fraudulent, and it basically didn't support any facts that took place at that scene. So it's a sad case, but I look at it as what it is. It's an absolute lynching of Black people, and it's been going on for many, many years. It's just now that we've got people with video cameras catching up to things and videoing. But I want to say this, that cop didn't even care. They knew that they were being videoed, and showed the audacity of these guys. And I'm going to call it what it is, straight out racism, haterism. They didn't care that they were being videoed.
I think this is a little bit greater than racism. It goes to the fact of, this goes back to just murder. It goes to murder. Racism, that's affecting, yes, it's a broad word, but it affects our ability, our mobility, our ability to survive. But this is murder.
Absolutely.
This is murder. And go ahead, Vion.
The underlying racism was that the person was not seen as a human being. And what the racism we see with law enforcement, we saw earlier that, the people were out with guns, loaded, seemed like loaded guns, accosting the police, pushing, the police had to put back with these people out there with guns. Here you have people that go out into the street to protest with no gun, and then what are they subjected to? Tear gas and other methods of dispersement. And you didn't see that with the white people, but with people of color protests, we saw that with our Native Americans when they were protesting the pipeline. We see that, across the world, when it's people of color, it's brutal force applied to quell the uprising. And that's what was happening. That's what we see happening in Minnesota.
I would say this, though. It's always been a case of those who are in a position of power, who want to control at any cost their power across the board. Now, as people of color, we are more easily subjected to that. We are more easily subjected to that. And certainly they want to maintain those lines so that they can maintain that. But my question is, what is our answer today? What is our answer today? We do have to go and still use the legal system, but we have to also be prepared to defend ourselves. I mean, I go back to, what is the answer? What can we do what can I tell my son? What can I tell him? I saw Bakari Sellers on CNN crying about his son, and what can he tell his son? So I'm about answers also. I don't believe that there is any answer in the Minnesota situation. Had it been me, you, or him, excuse me, all of us could have been subjected to that, because I believe they were inhuman. And the other officers did not step in. So what is the answer? Is our only answer to pray to not be in a situation like that and to pray to God? I throw that out.
Our real answer is, our answer is to organize and use our economic capital to our advantage, rather than taking it always out, buying unnecessary stuff that we don't need. So if we start to build an economic base where we can build our own housing, have our own food, those are two of the basics that you need in order to survive. And we have no means of doing any of that. So people say, oh, they're burning down their community, which is real. They're really not. However, we have no grocery stores that we will be able to go to that are ours. And we don't have the housing, decent housing that we can go to that is ours. So our real solution is to take our capital and use it to build the necessities that we need. Because I can remember going through the riots in Ohio back in the 60s. Yeah, wow. What happened, and you can go see that. You can see it in Watts, you can see it in Detroit, you can see it in Cleveland, all those areas where the people were very upset with the way the system was addressing them. And so they said, well, what we'll do is we'll destroy that as much of the system as we can. And that's what's happening currently today in Minnesota. So what'll be that, you know, probably they didn't have as much destruction as they've had in, you know, during the 60s, but stores that they were used to shopping at won't be there anymore. So more than likely, two things can occur. They're gonna have to go pay higher prices at another place, travel longer, or they could take their money and reestablish the stores in their community. Because we have enough money collectively to build anything we want. It's the problem is that we're not a collective.
No, and they're not as much of a collective, except when it comes to being against those that are outside of their race or something of that nature. What I'm saying is we have a difficulty working together. You know, one of the things that I like to do in the Brighter Source group and here on Sourceseeker is present avenues and platforms to be able to bring ideals together and to bring in people to be able to discuss and be able to talk. And that's one of the things that we would like to do. And because information, they've always said, if you want to hide something from Black people, put it in a book. And, you know, we do not have as much information as we should. We don't, some of us don't even like to watch the news and like to keep up with things that are going on. So we have to do a better job about that.
Yeah, one of the issues.
Let Brother Time share. Go ahead, Brother Time.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I agree with you guys. Economic might is one of the strongest avenues that we have to, number one, allow people who are not of color to take note because they recognize the greenback, you know, they recognize the dollar bill. And when you start acting in a way that's responsible and also in a collective manner, socially, then people start to take notice. Wait a minute, we're going to have to rethink this. This is hitting us economically. Speaking of economics, you know, I really believe that these cops need to be sued in a civil court also, not just a criminal court if it comes to the criminal, but also in a civil matter to hit them in the pocketbooks, you know, to let them know.
One thing about the civil court, it has to be enforced.
Yeah.
I mean, you can win a judgment, but it still has to be enforced. So you still, if they say they don't want to pay you, you still got to go back to, basically go back to the courtroom to get it enforced. And we are joined by our emeritus member, Pam Ballard Hicks. We are talking about the protests going along, protests, some people say riots. We'll say a state of upset because there was certainly a concern, a reason to be upset. Hi, Pam, how are you doing? She can't hear us yet, I don't believe, but we will continue with our show. And yes, in the courtroom, it goes back to that legal process. And then it goes back to those people who are in authority with a badge on in some contexts. Now, can we say we need to get more of our people with the authority to have a badge, have the authority to be able to carry the court's authority? Is that the answer?
I think also, I think there's a cultural aspect to this too among some people in law enforcement who
I'm here.
These particular
okay, thank you, Pam.
Hey, how are you doing? And so you have to change your culture too. There are people there, those law enforcement guys, that officers who are on scene, they could have stopped that. They could have stopped that incident right away. But you know
the other three officers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They didn't, you know. So in my mind, they're just as culpable as the guy with the foot on, you know, Floyd's neck. You know, something could have been done on the scene way before he asphyxiated, but they didn't do that. So you're looking at a cultural issue and also I think an economic issue like me and Beyond was talking about before. You know, I attack both of those because they don't need to know, and also the leadership within the police department needs to understand that we can't accept this type of behavior. And if you do engage in it, we're going to find you out, we're going to read you out, there are going to be real consequences to your behavior, to include prosecution if necessary. So that needs to be made real known. And all agencies across, you know, the United States, that you carry a responsibility and a duty to protect and serve, not to abuse, not to hunt down and murder. So that has to be really, you know, made clear.
Yes, Brother Tuss. Pam, please introduce yourself and then share, as our only former police officer, any thoughts, any feelings that you have about what happened in Minnesota, and then the riots, or just whatever you would like to comment about that particular subject. Our subject is the protests in Minnesota here on the Sourceseeker Hour.
Hi, I'm Pamela Hicks, and yeah, I'm a retired HPD sergeant. I was there for 21 years. I came in the 80s. So the 80s was, it's sad part about it is what occurred in the 80s, the good old boy system still occurs and is well in 2020. That cold blue, that blue rushed in. And you mentioned earlier about why somebody should have stopped it. Here's the deal. It's like a gang type mentality. I mean, when you think of gangs, always think of the police department. They all go in, and once they taught us it's hands in. If you're not hands in, then you're the outsider, and then not only that, they'll try to find a way to get rid of you. Especially when I was in the field training program, as a rookie, that's taught to us at the very beginning. If your hands is not in on there, somebody's on the ground and you're not putting your hands, then they try to roll you out and they can make it very difficult. That was the stuff that was bred into our minds. So as far as those officers know, they're committed. They're in. It takes a strong mindset. And I think I had that mindset because I'm an individualist, and even my husband had that mindset that I used to tell the officers, hold up, every time you come to a scene, it escalates. And let me go back a little bit further. In 1980, they did a study, can women be police officers? And the study was that they said that when women go to a disturbance, they de-escalate a situation, men tend to escalate the situation. Not all, I'm speaking based on the study. So that's when they decided to allow to have women police officers. And even doing my training as a trainer, you had that good old boy system. I didn't really see racism until I joined the police department. My parents didn't teach me that. They said it was back in the 60s. And I believe that. It was something in the 60s, and this is a brand new day. And then I learned the good old boy system, how dirty they could be. And when you don't include and seek out and search for Black men and women, and you see one color, and then you're definitely going to have that type of abuse. And as far as those guys, the three guys, oh my God, I think it was an execution. He's the murderer. He's evil. Remember, my husband used to always say, evil does exist. And Dr. King used to say it's in the heart and the soul of man. And it's, we always looking for that devil. It is. It's never that one with that red cape. It's man. And it's in the heart and soul. It is evil. But as far as, that coat of blue is true. But you have to practice individual thought, and those that practice individual. I just wouldn't allow that type of stuff to occur. And even the guys that I knew that were dirty, I stayed away from them.
I understand. Do you have a comment about the riots? What's going on in the community? In my opinion, I agree with Don Lemon. He says he understands it. Now, some of the things that he might have shared, I might not have said it the same way, but I certainly understand the frustration.
I don't agree with it, but and here's the whole situation that occurred. Y'all probably talked about it already. We had the Ahmaud Arbery situation 2 weeks ago. We had the Breonna Taylor situation that just recently occurred. She's in a house. She's a correctional officer. And they kill her the same way that that guy, what was Goings did. He executed. They prosecuted him. The feds are involved with that. I'm talking about the situation that with the police on the narcotics officer in Houston, which I knew him. We came on the academy together. And then this situation, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not surprised. Something needs to happen in a sense that, and I'm not advocating violence. Something needs to say that we can't just sit and allow them to just, destroy us and kill us. When you know what? I stopped carrying my gun for a while, and I even sold my little handgun. I used to carry my purse. I'm retired, so I can have my gun. I haven't qualified in a while, but I stopped carrying my gun, and I told my husband, "Hold up, you know what?" Because I still have my big on-duty gun. And I said, you know what? I'm carrying my gun again. I said, one thing about it, when you kill a person, you live with it for life. So when you pull a gun, you be prepared to use it. I don't plan to use my gun, but I am not going to be bullied, and I'm not going to walk afraid. And I got my gun, not so much because when I pull that gun, I know I have to use it. So I don't ever plan to pull it unless somebody, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to be the only one dead.
Yes, ma'am.
2 other people going with me.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Very understanding. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I appreciate all the guests for joining us. We originally had another show planned, but this subject, protest, was going on in Minnesota. Very important subject, and it's the subject on everybody's mind. The people in Minnesota are very upset. A very small Black community in Minnesota, but a very loud voice, very much, and a very important. If you saw the picture of the knee on that gentleman from here in Houston, 3rd Ward, George Floyd, it just made me feel rage. That's why I don't watch movies like about slavery or about Black people getting mistreated, because I get so angry, and it stays with me for so long. I mean, it's not that I don't appreciate Black cinema, but I'm just trying to live my life in a way where I don't have to have rage all the time. But I certainly read about it, and I certainly understand. Vion, what you got to say about what's going on?
Well, one of the things last October, I happened to be in Europe, and they had one of the biggest protests in London, for quite some time, Extinction Rebellion. And I saw the police act as they were servants of the people. They didn't act as if they were bounty hunters or that people had to do exactly what they said immediately, or else we're going to beat you upside the head. They didn't do that. They were very polite. And then I talked to people about that, and they said that the police there considered themselves servants. And here we see the police more as, custodians or guards to keep the inmates in line, and which was a very, very different. I mean, I was in a position where the police asked me to do something, and they asked me so nice, it was shocking to hear of officer, and it was, well, not 100, but 50 or more officers in the area, shutting down the area, and they talked to you as if you were a human being, as if they were talking to themselves and trying to keep de-escalating.
You did not see that they treated Black people different? Where were you in Europe?
So, I was downtown London. It was mostly white people, I will say that. But as a Black person, I wasn't treated any different. But here in the United States, you can see even in Minnesota, even there are white protesters that the treatment by the police is way different here than it is, particularly in Europe. I can say that. Now, Japan, we can see that, and we see the same sort of stuff with the Israelis. We saw the same sort of stuff in South Africa, but in England, I saw a different thing. Number one, they don't have the gun. They didn't carry the gun, which means I will kill you right now if you say something different, which is a lot different than the U.S. because I have my gun, you must do as I say or I will kill you. And that's what they did. They didn't have to use their guns. They just used excessive force, which is always available with them because they do have that gun.
Where are you speaking about? Where this was in England?
Yeah, this was in London, England. Last year, the Extinction Rebellion over the climate change and all the species that it was thousands. They closed down the central city of London for several days, almost a week. It was closed down, and so they closed down the airport. It was a lot of problems, but I didn't see anybody. I saw a lot of people getting arrested. I saw nobody getting beat, nobody really getting manhandled. They were very nice to the people that they arrested. So
and you did say majority of them they were white, right?
Yeah, they were white. I will give you that they were white, but the attitude of the police was a lot different. I haven't ever seen that with police. The attitude toward me as a black person was different. Maybe they thought I was, honorary. Maybe that day I was honorary white, which we can see that there's a difference, when you start policing people of color.
But see, when you go to the situation like Ahmaud Arbery, I want to make sure I'm saying his name correctly. They drove in that truck to follow this young man. So they totally provoked that situation. I mean, it's not like he was somewhere and they had a conflict. No, they drove because he was jogging and they drove behind him to start and provoke a conflict. And so, I mean, what can they say in that particular situation? At least those two guys have already been charged. Now, we don't know whether they're going to be convicted or not, but I mean, these situations are most of them that I see are unacceptable. I mean, the only situation that I can say that may have some gray area was Michael Brown. I think that was his name. Maybe. But other than that, I mean, even with the...
why would you say Michael Brown?
Well, first of all, there's no video in that particular situation. Michael Brown was shown in a store being a bit aggressive and taking advantage of his size.
Correct.
So, from that perspective, there's questions as to whether he was the provoker and trying to do wrong in his situation. But even with the case of Trayvon Martin, one second.
They didn't have to shoot him.
Say again?
That was totally unnecessary. Just like the guy,
I didn't say, no, I didn't say they had to shoot him. I don't think in any of the situations the person had to be shot. But even in the case of Trayvon Martin, we know that you had a vigilante hunter who was running around trying to find somebody to make a show against.
Well, Carl, here's the problem that I have is that let's always do it in reverse if the guy was white. How would that situation? Always ask yourself, and I don't like to play the race card. That's not what I'm saying. I said, how would that situation have turned out? Now, they did Black Lives Matter. You remember that time they were all over the Black Lives Matter. They had this white racist supremacist group. They got guns, AK-47s. They're almost like they're their guards, protectors. I mean, and you got these females out here yelling, said this is wrong. And it's, how does that thing, you got guns, states, they got, and they do nothing. So it's obvious. We can't lie about it and try to make it something else. It is what it is how, and can I go back a little bit with the guy that with the knee? You saw the picture. I saw the video. I heard him beg for 5 minutes, and the whole time he was begging, it was so hard. I cried. I couldn't even watch the whole thing. Honestly, I couldn't even watch till he died. Some people said blood came out of his nose, but it hurt me till I just was. And then I saw his parents, his brother on CNN, how his brother was said he was a gentle giant. He'll give you anything if you ask for it. But that video.
And you know that
Evil. I saw evil, and I know it exists. I saw it in that man.
it looked like I sure saw it in his eyes also. You talking about the man with the knee on his neck. You know, I hate to put different characteristics by just looking at somebody by the face.
You can. It's in their eyes. You can see. Call it out. It is. You know it. Your God. That's a God-given instinct to protect you. And I used it for a long time on the police department. My instinct said, "Hey, this situation getting ready to go bad."
I had that happen to me where somebody has tried to look at me and make a judgment about who I am. So I'm very sensitive to that. But in this particular situation, it sure looks like he had evil in his eyes.
I've had those type of judgments. I'm not talking about that. I remember I was dealing with this mentally ill guy, and I remember the guy was pacing back. I already knew he was off his meds, and he pulled a wrench about the side, one of those huge wrenches. I knew things with this stuff was getting ready to go. I said to myself, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to shoot him in front of his mom." And the reason why I'm saying that, my instinct, everything in me, and I was the only officer at the scene. Only thing I did as a woman, I calmed him down, moved him, backed him out of the apartment. But I knew he had other weapons on it. Everything in my, so I'm talking to him. He's pacing back and forth. I know he's getting ready to set it off at any minute. I called for an assist the officer. 2 rookies came up and they saw him calm. They saw me calm. And I said, handcuff him. They looked at me, what? Handcuff him. Then finally, because they saw a guy that's not doing anything, they handcuffed the guy. He brought a knife out this long. He had a small handgun. I knew he was getting ready to kill us all. I told him, I said, I already knew. That was my instinct, my defense mechanism. They told me this thing is getting ready to go bad.
Yeah,
but
let me make
just
one statement.
Go ahead, Beyond.
In all the issues that we're talking about, what we see is white power trying to manifest itself, white privilege trying to manifest itself over minority people. That's generally what we see. And if you don't yield to my power, then you got hell to pay.
Going back to that situation that you said earlier about the woman in Central Park, she felt because he wasn't adapting to what she felt was her privilege. Her privilege was to do what she wanted to and have her dog. Because I was in the park, I was in Tom Bass Park, and I run in the park and I'm running. And so this lady, her dog was just running around, and he hid behind a bush. And I saw him, and I saw him hiding behind that bush, and I'm running around the track. So I get my key and I put it in my hand because I say, if this dog tries to bite me, I'm gonna kill him. And sure enough, he came and he was trying to, get at me. And I had my key and I was at him. But normally when I roar at a dog, he backs up and runs away. He didn't do it this time. I was actually finna have to kill him. But the lady leisurely finally came up and got her dog. And I say, ma'am, you need to put your dog on the leash. And, she kind of felt annoyed, because they want to do what they want to do. You don't have a right to do that when it affects other people. And so I'm glad that the woman's, her company, Franklin Templeton, fired her. And, she was shamed and so forth. But if that man had not had his video camera and he had a bad police officer who had come, it could have went a whole different way. I give you another example. My son at 8 years old called the police to say I was abusing him. He called the police because I took the Wii game away. I took the Wii game away. So he called, and I didn't even know he had called the police. And so the police officer comes to the door and he's hollering and screaming at me and threatening me. I don't even know what he's threatening me for. But had I reacted in a different way and say, you know, MF this, MF that, hey, get off my foot, I could have got shot right there. So, I mean, sometimes it does depend upon the officer that is called, but that old boy network, you have to have a brave officer to speak up if another one is doing wrong. So, I mean, sometimes we just hope for the best.
We don't speak up. Let's be clear. We move away. What I was trained to do. I mean, my favorite thing was, if I get fired, it's going to be something I did, not because another officer did. So what I do, I knew not to check by on his scene. And that anytime he always come here, it was going to be a fight, a brawl, or somebody was going to jail. So at that point in time, you avoid that kind of situation. I'm being honest with you. I avoided those situations because at that time—
You avoided it if somebody else was involved?
I avoided any time of going to that officer's scene if he had some form of disturbance. And I told him flat more than one, I don't want you at mine.
Okay, because you knew his reputation.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got you.
One more call, kid. Jonathan wants to ask a question.
Sure. Come on, JP.
Yeah, I've been listening to y'all. I'm Pamela Suggs. I'm a retired officer, but I'm also a police officer in the school district now. I want y'all, all of y'all, what y'all saying are relevant until pieces of a puzzle. That's what this is. We haven't got to figure out a way to get the one solid picture or one solid way to bring us to an end. I want y'all to go out and ask other Black people this. We have Black male, Black female police officers. We have Hispanic males, Hispanic police officers. We have Middle Eastern males and Middle Eastern female police officers. And we have white Asian males, Asian female police officers. And we have white males and white female police officers. Out of these 9 entities of police officers, why we only have one shooting on Black men?
We kind of know the answer to that.
What's that?
The answer to
That's
that.
what I just said.
Hold on, Vion, let me answer, Vion. Let me answer, then you can answer. The answer is because they have a culture of Western system of they supposed to be in charge. They supposed to decide what is right and wrong. I mean, there's no denying that.
That's not quite accurate, Paul.
Okay. Vion, let Vion answer. What you got to say, Vion?
It still goes back to the same culture where with white people, if we were walking on the sidewalk at one time, we should get out of the way, just naturally. That when they ask us a question, when the police comes up, that we're supposed to be very subservient. We're not supposed to say no or express your right. You don't have a right to search me. I'm not yielding to your power. So we have to yield to the white power. Generally, I haven't had a lot of experience with minority, well, I did. I've had experience with Black officers. And I've seen as much brutality with Black officers as I have with white officers, because that was stated earlier, it's the men in blue. They're not Black, they're not white, they're blue. But particularly the Black officer was almost more brutal, especially when he was in presence of the white people. He was more brutal than even the white people. So, you know, it's still the manifestation of, I think a lot of it still comes from the slavery, that the Blacks have now become the overseer. They're not the master, they're overseers. So they carry out the wishes
you just touched
of the master.
on the answer to that question. When you say it comes from back in slavery days. Bottom line is that we are not still considered but it's still less than a human being. We're not, we're not considered the whole man yet.
I disagree with it. I'm gonna call a thing a thing, and that's it. I understand what you're saying as far as that. No, it's hate. I can understand. Damn, hate you. I saw it. If I didn't see it, I was training with a guy that was probably a supremacist. What do you call white supremacy? They hate you. That evil. And Dr. King, one of his things said that hate. He said this is why it's wrong to hate. And he said because for the hater, his center of objectivity is off. He'll see a beautiful person and call that person ugly. The wrong become right and the right become wrong. Donald Trump. I mean, in that you'll see somebody say that's what they should have killed him and put his heel on the back because he was resistant. That's hate. Because when he says your center of objectivity are right and wrong, and you'll see somebody beautiful and call that person ugly just because you hate them, the skin they're in. I see if I did, I'm telling you, no, yeah, it's authority, definitely what you're saying, but they also, let's get back. When I was on the police department, they said 70% of the officers never fire their weapons. 30% have multiple shootings. So that means they were involved in not one shooting, two shootings, maybe three, and maybe four. That was 30% had multiple. A person like me and my husband has never shot anybody on the line of duty. And during our time, 70% of the officers never fired their weapon. I mean, besides when we were training, we had to qualify every year, once a year on our birthday.
I agree.
Now you look at it now, the stats may have changed where it may be 60%. I hope that it's not 40% that fire their weapons. But when I was in the 80s, the 90s, in 2000, mid 2000, then it was only 30%, and those 30% of the officers fired their weapons multiple times.
I think we all have an agreement here that, hey, there's a culture, there's a segment of the population that doesn't see Black people as human. I don't think we have a disagreement there. I agree with that, and I hope I don't encounter one of those who are a police officer and has the color of the badge behind them to be able to inflict their evil. So there's an agreement. Fortunately, not all have that mindset. You said maybe 60% do not have never fired their weapon. So there are how many of a percentage? Maybe I got it wrong, but there's a percentage that fires their weapons multiple times, and those are probably the ones that are seeking some type of conflict or to hurt other people with their badge.
I used to work on federal law enforcement years ago. I worked at national security for a long time, and I worked under another aspect too. I saw a lot of bad cops. A lot of people with law enforcement licenses working at the Space Center. They got their own tactical force and everything. I got friends on the force right now. And I'm here to tell you, I saw a lot of people that didn't need to have a badge nor a gun, who've gone from department to department, to include ours. And I worked out there 6 years, and I did all kinds I carried a gun every day, and we had shotguns and everything. And, I never shot him. I did traffic patrol out there in conjunction with Precinct 8. And I'm here to tell you the Precinct 8 have an awful lot of racist cops there that I knew personally. And just because I carried a badge, they would tell me stuff they would do, and I would shake my head because I knew, they felt like I'm Black, they're white, but I'm going to agree with them behind this blue line. And, and I knew a guy that went to that from our force to Precinct 8, and I knew he was racist with us and he was racist with them, and he didn't give a damn. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that out loud, but he didn't care. He actually made no bones about holding his Glock up to people's heads and stuff, and they were people of color. you know, they made jokes out of this kind of stuff. And this was back in 2000, 2001, 2005, that kind of stuff, 2006. They didn't care, and they loved it. And they you know, and for a lot of us who were respectable stayed away from those guys. We didn't go around and when they were patrolling. We didn't want to be around and when there was a scene come up, that kind of stuff. I mean, because stuff would happen, you know what I mean? And then you're like on the scene, and then what are you gonna do? You know, so it was always something going on. So we stayed away from those people. Tried to get them, you know, hopefully they did something so grotesque that they got fired. And that's usually what happened. But yeah, I can attest that these people walked around with guns and badges, and folks knew they were bad apples, and they stayed on the force, and they just went from one force, one department to another.
One thing I did when I first started this job here with a white officer, and I started hearing him talking in that mindset you just were referring to, and I walked up to him and I told him, I don't believe in accidental shootings when they come to me. I shoot back. Oh, John, no, this is what I'm telling you. I do not believe in accidental shootings when they come to me. I will shoot your ass back.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, they respect that. That they respect.
Oh yeah, they respect that. That's why they get so uncomfortable when they see black protesters with guns as opposed to white protesters with guns. I mean, there's no secret in that. They don't want to see black people armed because they know deep in their soul how evil they have been, and they don't want us to have power or the authority to be able to defend ourselves. Of course. I mean, what you were saying earlier, JP, about what's the difference between the white officer, the Asian officer, the Indian officer, is his mindset. He's a supremacist. He has a Western ideal that he should be in control to be able to tell everybody else what to do. That's his mindset. We can't hear you. Come closer to the
white officer. When I was working with him, when you see me, are you afraid of me? He paused. He said, no. And with that same question I asked y'all, I posed to him. And when I finished asking that question, he dropped his head down, raised it back up. He said, Jonathan, I'm be honest with you. He's from Cleveland, Texas. Some of us were raised that way.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the way it is, and that's the way the culture is. And, going back to our subject is what's happening in Minnesota. We can understand the frustration of the people there in Minnesota. Having seen that video, having seen what happened, we can understand that. Now, what are we going to do about it? One thing we can do is have this discussion here and have more people to join us in this discussion and raise more awareness about it. Because it's the only thing different about that situation is we have video. We have evidence of what happened, but it's been happening every day, all over the world, all over America. Yes, JP.
Carl, and I'll be the first one to go up there and stand with them. When that movie X, when they locked this fuck up and ended up walking with those 8 stations and our brothers and stood in front of the police station and would not budge. They brought him out, put him in the ambulance. He got word that he'd been beaten. That's what needs to be done in every major city in this country. Stand in front of the police station, do not budge. You ain't got to say nothing because they know why we're there. If somebody comes out and tell us what they have in the plan they have now implemented, stop all this nonsense.
We certainly need to have much more diligence, more consequences, more things, more awareness. We got to raise, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is because it's a firestorm what's happening. And people are just saying black folks are just going crazy and unrest. No, we have a reason. We certainly have a reason because of what, that knee in the neck is a very serious thing. And they should hope that that's the least what we do. Yes, Pam, you were gonna say something?
Go ahead.
This is the Sourceseeker Hour. Hold on, Beyond. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. We got about 10 more minutes left. I thank everybody for coming on. being able to share with us in this very important subject. Go ahead, Vion.
I just want to say that one of the things that's in our power that we do, if we can't have justice, you won't have any peace. And that's what the people really around the world, if we can't get justice, we won't let the system have any peace. So that's one of the strengths that they see us manifesting.
Go into that a little deeper. You say no justice, no peace. So are you just advocating chaos?
Well, it's chaotic when I step out and you arrest me and then kill me for nothing. That's chaos. So what type, is it only chaos on one side? It's very chaotic for us to experience racism every day. We go to school. Our schools are substandard. Our neighborhoods are substandard. So if we can't get justice in the system, then we won't have any peace in society. So that's one of the best means that we have, that will disrupt traffic, will, as they're doing now, we'll just tear up everything because you won't give us peace. And so we're not going out sniping people or killing people. What we're doing is destroying property, which you have valued more than our lives. The man stole basically property, and his life was taken because he stole property.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead, Pam.
That whole thing about he was writing a check. I don't know if the check belonged to him. He was sitting in his car when he was arrested. So they pulled him out of his car and faced him down. He was writing a check. And the store clerk at the convenience store said, call the police because they thought that his check was not any good. Now, I don't know if they ever said if it was his check or somebody else's check, but it was definitely a check that he was trying to cash. My whole thing about this whole thing, it was happened to be a white lady. She wrote on there, she said, it's a shame that they're doing this violence. And I said, well, and I asked her, my comment on the blog was, well, what do you think they should have done? I said, wait on the justice system. And I'm not advocating, I said, but it's a shame, I get it. But if they would have, you still would have said a shame if they went out and killed a police officer. They went to the police officer's home, they hovered there, and I agree, that was a good step. They hovered over there, you didn't protest, you putting this picture all out there. My whole thing about it, I like this guy, I don't know if y'all know Sean King, do y'all know him?
Oh yeah, I like him. Sean King's awesome.
Yes, he is. If you're not a follower of him, you really do. And really, we need to consider putting funds into him, even if it's $50 a month. He's an advocate for justice. He has everybody in his, and the FBI has been out, the CIA has been on him for long. And now they're trying to say he's split, but he has the Justice League Meredith that, and what's that other guy? So really, we have to be more proactive and realize that we got to do more than just talk, but also do. Even if I give, they're going to have a blackout on July the 7th. Have y'all seen that blackout on July?
I've been seeing a few messages about it. Yes, ma'am.
And I included you into it. Follow Sean King. He's the one that exposed and bring a lot of this to the forefront. Even if, and the reason why I do that is because thank God that somebody, and he finds the names to all these people. Even those, he was the spearhead with the ARPA situation. He would have went under the cover. He said, who is this guy? He has that. So he's really great. We must start doing, and even if we contribute dollars. But one thing about, the reason I like to, one more thing, July 7th blackout is because Dr. King, they asked him, how did he defeat the Montgomery bus boycott? He said, we simply removed our economic funds.
Yes.
And the bus system went bankrupt.
That's it.
We have the power.
We must have the organization and the ability to work together, which is a process. because
they got this young guy that's pretty good. We gotta trust. We can't sit there. They got this young guy that's pretty good. Trust that these young guys are fearless, and we have to support them. I mean, I'm not saying blind, blind. Blind. What do you call it? But we have to trust that these guys.
we got to give each other a chance across the board. In my opinion, we have to build circles. We could build a circle with Sean King. We could build a circle with Black Gold Nation. We can build a circle in so many different areas. So there's a lot of opportunity. One of the things about the Sourceseeker Hour is a platform, and we can connect with other platforms. One of my friends, Sharon Brown, has the Hour of Power. I go on her show, and different connections. We form all those connections, and let's not burn bridges. Let's not burn bridges. Let's not say they're no good over there and they haven't done nothing to us to disrupt us or to mess us up. We just don't like them because they're not us. We can't do that. We got to build bridges and build our connections. This is the sort. Go ahead, Pam. Huh?
Build a bridge. This is not everybody because you're pro-black doesn't mean you hate white. I don't hate anybody. But what I'm trying to say is extend the hand of fellowship. I get it. You taught us that how to extend the hand of fellowship. But the whole thing about it is that you have to develop unity in a situation and encourage. Everybody's invited. If you there for the betterment, empowerment, and if you stand to say it's wrong too, I'm there. To me, you can be a part of the movement. But I don't want to sit there and say, that everybody wants to bring them in and extend. I'm not extending anything.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't care what you do. Everybody's not going to be a part of, and everybody ain't going to understand what you do. Just our conversation here. There's going to be people to say that we are talking pro-black and we're talking militant and won't like us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I promise you. I promise you. They're not going to like our conversation because we're being too militant. So I don't care what you do. Not everybody's going to appreciate it. So draw a small circle with those who are like-minded and continue to move forward. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I was about to say the other acronym, but no, this is the Sourceseeker Hour online. Our new format, our new platform moving forward, and thank everybody for joining us. Let us give our well wishes and our closing statement. Go ahead, Brother Times, give me your closing statement.
I just hope that, we just kind of bring a light to all these negative forces and basically work together in a collective body, as an organized body of like-minded individuals to try to change and transform lives in a positive way.
Peace and power. Thank you, Brother Times, for joining us at this late notice. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, brother. Brother, Dr. Vion, give us a word.
Yep. Yes, sir. Basically, I think one of the things that we need to do and keep in mind is to think globally, but act locally. I'm sorry. Think globally, act locally. And one of the more important things is to get our candidates that we want to see in office, get people that represent our values. Not somebody you say, well, they represent 5% of my values, so I'm going to vote for them. We want people that represent 100% of our values in office so that we will get justice. We can get some justice out of this capitalist system.
Pam, if you would share.
I think the time is now for us to act, to do something, to give support, encourage. I think the marching is, I think pretty much is a done deal. I think that even if we could give money, I talk about Sean King, that justice, that they were concerned about him spending the money. I can say he can spend all the money as long as he brings justice and awareness and light to a situation. And so, but we also have to, in addition to supporting those and supporting that, I rather, James Brown said it quick, I'd rather down my feet, down my knees or back. If I got, so you remember that? He said,
Right.
he said,
Oh,
we
yeah.
just pick.
Say
And
it
not so
loud. I'm
much
black
of
and I'm proud.
Yeah, I'm not advocating violence. I'm advocating that we have to take a stand. This is wrong. And those that are silent, who said nothing, are is a bigger danger. That he said, Dr. Said, in Birmingham jail, he said, I'm beginning to think it's not the Ku Klux Klanners that's against black progression. He said, but the white moderates who's always telling the blacks to wait for a more perfect season. It's not your season. It's not your time.
Yes.
Time is
Right.
now. Act and act responsibly. Act. Do something.
I totally agree. And this is the Sourceseeker Hour. I just want to say before we go beyond, I don't put emphasis on finding our 100% candidate. I put emphasis on building our circle right here where we are, start right where we are, and illuminate from right where we are. So maybe next week we have contacted with Sean King, and we have, I don't know who he is, but I'm gonna work with him. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna research, and so we start right here. Don't search far off. Search right here, right where we are, right here on the Sourceseeker Hour. Thank you all for joining us, and let's continue to move forward, and let's continue to reach out. Don't burn bridges. Keep our bridges open where we can all walk across, all those that want to get to the other side. Thank you all very much. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Have a good week. Have a good time. Bye.